The imperious double doors of Anmer Hall's foyer burst open with the fury of a hurricane gale, the deafening boom reverberating through every corridor of the sprawling country estate. In charged Carol Middleton, a vengeful Valkyrie in tasteful pearls and tailored Sloane Ranger blazer, her typically genial expression contorted into a rictus of maternal wrath. At her side marched Michael, the former British Airways flight dispatcher's countenance etched in matching fury as he brandished a bristling manila folder overflowing with official medical documentation. The normally unflappable in-laws had arrived like avenging angels of judgment upon Prince William and Kate's lavish Norfolk sanctuary, driven to shattering all remaining propriety by the worsening crisis devastating their beloved daughter. "Where is she?" Carol intoned darkly, pupils smoldering as she whipped her head back and forth. "Where are you keeping my little girl sequestered away from proper medical care?" William emerged from the study at the eruption of noise, startled out of a terse video conference with his Kensington Palace staff. Though regal in bearing as ever, his reddened eyes and bristled appearance pointed towards a man haggard and worn near the breaking point. His jaw sagged open at the sight of his once cherished in-laws, now transformed before him into avenging furies. "See Carol, Michael, you can't simply burst into my home this way." The prince sputtered in astonishment. "The security staff should never have allowed you entry without." Whatever flimsy rejoinder he sought to proffer withered within his throat as Carol unleashed the full nuclear blast of her ire. "Save your royal blathering for the tourney pitch, William," she spat with caustic derision. "I am the rightful matriarch here, and my little girl's health has deteriorated to a state that can no longer be borne by your arrogant negligence and antiquated delusions." Michael stepped forward aggressively to cut off any attempt at rebuttal, the folder aloft in an accusing tone. "Kate's autoimmune markers have skyrocketed past the danger threshold acknowledged in these records. Her body is quite literally at war with itself on a cellular level, caused by the same mysterious ailment your family obstructed us from properly diagnosing and treating 2 years ago." A familiar crippling guilt seized William's chest, memories of that harrowing summer clouding his senses. He had simply deferred to the palace's ironclad recommendations in the face of this bizarre ailment afflicting his wife and Duchess, at least initially. Proper optics demanded any attack upon the heirs of the British crown be confronted by stiff inscrutability and ancestral gravitas, after all. But as the weeks of Kate's agonizing deterioration had stretched into endless, tortured months, both he and his son George had found themselves begging the unyielding firm for permission to sidestep protocol and seek comprehensive private treatment. Their pleas dismissed with clinical detachment each time by the Lord Chamberlain's faceless emissaries, with citations of national security interests regarding royal bloodlines taking inexorable precedence. Within the Middleton family compound, however, such faceless obstinance had been steadily charred away to ash beneath the searing flames of paternal outrage. Even as William's advisors continued their arduous back-channel inquiries, the delays and maddening opacity drove Carol and Michael to their own desperate reconnaissance, consulting world-class immunologists, geneticists, and any expert who could so much as theorize about the ravages overtaking their daughter. Only when confronted with the inevitability that his wife of 12 years was destined for a harrowing, protracted demise did William cast aside his obligatory fealty to the palace courtiers and directly appeal to his grandmother for succor. To the true matriarch of the royal bloodline and British people, from whose loving embrace even hidebound protocol must bend. But now, any succor or path to restoring Kate's lost vitality appeared permanently foreclosed, her parents' uncontainable frenzy made horrifyingly evident. William braced himself as his former mother-in-law literally shoved the bristling medical file into his chest, forcing him to clutch at its disgorging reams of test results and scans. "We've indulged every prattering effort at discretion and reserving appearances up to this point, William," Michael growled in a low, dangerous register. "Every time Kate exhibited a new deterioration or possible pathway to treatment, your people suppressed any attempt to circumvent their institutionalized wheels and shadows." Carol nodded in furious agreement, eyes glistening with unshed tears despite the towering tempest of maternal fury emanating from her slight frame. "Our baby's immune system is quite literally devouring her from the inside out, and all your vaunted royal potentates could respond with was a confidentiality pact." She jabbed an accusatory finger upwards towards William's stricken countenance, somehow transcending her immaculately appointed street dress to become a pitiless avenging deity hurling thunderbolts of condemned guilt. All our impassioned petitions over these past 2 years for you to sidestep protocol and leverage every elite medical resource at your family's disposal were met with silence and condescension, she uttered in a tremulous rasp. And now my sweet, loving daughter is at death's door precisely because we indulged your monarchy's antiquated delusions about preservation of bloodline integrity over basic human preservation. The Duchess's howls of agony echoing down the upper wings of the manor lent horrifying credence to her mother's excoriation. William physically recoiled as each tormented wail pierced his heart like freshly forged daggers of guilt. And no, you mustn't think for one moment that I willingly. He began to stammer, only for Michael's granite features to silence him with a single upraised palm. Your motivations and rationalizations matter precious little at this juncture, son, the departed patriarch intoned with a terrifying, deathly calm settling over him. What's done is done through gross negligence and your family's arrogance. Tearing prickling William's eyes, he found himself backpedaling as the two parents stalked forth in predatory unison. Carol sliced through him with a gaze of furious disgust normally awarded to naughty schoolchildren. We've acquiesced to the royal family precedence over our own needs long enough, she hissed, words dripping with venom. And in doing so, we've consigned an innocent, vibrant life to a grisly fate at the altar of empty pomp. She smoothed her hands over the crests of her tailored jacket, squaring her shoulders as unbridled steel radiated through every syllable. Well, no more. For the sake of our firstborn's fleeting dignity and humanity, I will not permit this barbaric solitary confinement to persist one night further. William's heart jackhammered as multiple staffers began rushing about the vaulted foyer, alerted to the commotion and converging with bewildered panic. But no amount of royal security protocol could impede the inevitable now. His in-laws had been driven to the very brink, and would stay their justified course to its inevitably tragic conclusion. With one final, withering glare, Carol spun on her heel and started for the stairs leading to the ducal residential chambers, her husband's heavy tread dogging her footsteps like an obedient foot soldier flanking his general into battle. No. William's voice echoed through the cavernous chamber in a breathless croak, moisture now streaking his anguished features as the magnitude of this moment crystallized. Please, you cannot take her from this home, the round-the-clock nursing staff we have assembled, the resources. Your home and birthright have failed our family beyond reckoning, young man. Michael's booming bellow silenced his son-in-law's desperate pleas with the devastating finality of a guillotine blade. From this moment forth, what remains of our sweet Kate shall be tended to with compassion and dignity by those who possess such virtues. Save your false slogans of protocol for your Windsor kin's ears alone. It proved a baited taunt William couldn't resist seizing. But you must accept that I am a Windsor, the second-in-line bellowed into the startled silence, his chest heaving with emotion. A legacy son born of this bloodline's most sacred lineage. Destined to one day don the same mantles of duty and obligation to uphold tradition that defined my ancestors. With the whites of his eyes now reddening to match his distressed complexion, the Prince of Wales heir jabbed an accusing finger at the retreating Middletons. Your daughter married into this dynastic institution with full understanding of her consecrated standing. She willingly embraced the rules and sacrifices for such unprecedented privilege, knowing full well its gravity. And to consider abandoning her post now, when her circumstances require the utmost discretion and... Enough. Carol's primordial scream of anguished rage caused the resplendent vaulted ceilings themselves to tremble in sympathetic vibration. The Duchess wails from above harmonized with their mother's indomitable ferocity, two voices of ceaseless feminine torture and despair forming a hellish Greek chorus. Do you hear that piteous sound, William? Carol seethed, spittle frothing at the corners of her mouth. That is the voice of a woman whom you purported to cherish and honor for 2 decades, enduring torment unlike any in human history. And for what? Some calcified archon's notion of preserving their sanctified bloodline? Have you no shame or paternal impulse to shelter your wife's very soul?